And boom, we are live. What is happening, everyone? It's Mikey Wine here, aka Gundamonium Works. Another live stream here. Step or part 5, I think we're on with this 135 scale M1A1 Abrams tank build from Tamiya. As you can see, I got some primer finally down. Only a couple of pieces of photo etch left to put on. There's like a number placard or something that goes on the back. I may or may not use that, but I did glue on pretty much everything on the turret section in the last couple of days. There's about 50 pieces of photo etch just on the turret alone. So what you can see here, I mean, this is the main hull. The reason the wheels are off and everything, because I have them over on skewers right now after primer. But anyway, let me know who's here. What's going on? How's it going? How's your hump day going? We'll talk about this. So I've got the hatches glued on. There's really a ton of photo etch on it, like 50 little pieces, little tiny things. Some large, like the lower bed of the stowage area here is all photo etch. That's probably the largest piece on this. Then I've got this is what I was building or talking about last week, was these reflective panels that show friend or foe under thermal imaging and where they go, what direction they go. So those are also attached. And I've got this window here with the doors open. That's just sitting on here. I've got to take it off because I still have a lens behind that I have it taped off so I don't get any paint on it. But yeah, I've just been working primarily on the turret. In fact, last week, one of the things I was making was these tow cables along the edge here. And if you get up close, you can see that right along the bottom edge, there's actually 7 pieces of photo etch that hold that down. There's 5 little hooks and then 2 end pieces that hold the cables on either side of the turret. And then you got the smoke dispensers here. There's another photo etch bracket there. The lid and the hinges and all the little hold down tabs for the smoke storage boxes. Those are also a lot of photo etch there on both sides. The little handles here on top of each one of these boxes, and then there's handles on the inside of the hatches. Those are also photo etch. And to complete this whole thing, I have the other pieces here. This is, if you were to count these, this is some more photo etch because there's actually more here that goes on this turret section. I'll just kind of put this together real quick. What's up, Tyler? How's it going, brother? So I haven't glued this in yet because I want to make sure everything is straight. That goes on like so, and then this will attach. Should probably put that, there we go. So that will go on there. So there's also 1, 2 pieces of photo etch, or actually 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of photo etch just on that little turret section there. So that's another 4. So yeah, almost 55. 54 or 50, 53, 55, something like that. I lost count. I was trying to count them all, but there's a ton. And there's even more that goes on the main body here. So the turret will move up and down. I'm going to keep it kind of in a lower position only because there's 1 piece of photo etch on the back here that, what's up, girl? Whatever, dude. I just read your message. I don't want to break that off. If I extend this up too high an angle, it will actually interfere with the turret. So I have to make sure I don't stress that or anything or bend it, break it off, because a lot of this stuff even though it's glued on, there's very little glue holding it on, because obviously you don't want this big clump of glue holding something on. It would be obvious that you attached it to the kit. So a lot of this photo etch is glued on with as minimal as possible, and so it also will fly off pretty easily. And I predict I'm going to knock something off tonight, probably when I'm working on this. So on the main hole here, this is glued together finally. I did not have these pieces in together last week when I was building here, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's not a lot here. 5, 6. There's only about 6, 7. Let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there's about 12 pieces of photo etch here. There's also remember, this has also got to go on at the end here. This is the grill that goes over. See if I can put this on without breaking anything. So this is the exhaust grill, and I have to prime that too. But I wanted to paint the original grill underneath it first before I try to put this on. It'd be really hard to get my airbrush to cover everything evenly with all these little vents and louvers in the way. So that is why this has not been attached yet. Okay. There's also quite a few pieces left in here. These have not been primed yet. I've got a bunch. All the wheels are over on sticks that have been primed. So yeah, just the main hole here. I've still got the side pieces here. I haven't shot these yet. These will go on later, but what I've got to do tonight is probably do some seam fixing because like the back piece goes on here. There's a seam across the top on both these corners that shouldn't be there. So I've got to somehow fix that. I've also got, I think I pretty much got the front here, but primarily on the turret, there's a seam here that I've got to address. I can't really see. It's on this side. This one looks pretty good. This side's got to be done. So that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. I'm going to be addressing some of those, because once you prime something, it's a lot easier to see gaps or seams or things that you thought you might have fixed before you shot them with primer. And then of course you hit them with primer and it just, you can see it that much easier. I'm pretty happy with the barrel. This had a big seam all the way down the center of it on both sides, but it looks like I took care of that. It doesn't look like there's anything that I need to, I'll look at it a little bit closer with my magnifiers, but it looks like I've got that seam really nice. So that's going to go well. I don't have to do anything from there. I think I can just hit it with some paint and be done with it. So I think I've decided, some people were asking me what color I was going to go with, what color scheme. Because there's two versions, like the NATO camouflage version and then the standard tan color Abrams. I think I'm going to go with the standard brown, just the tan colored Abrams, because I think it's more common what we see, especially in the U.S. military. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I still have 2 antennae that I have to make to attach here, and that's done using. You take a lighter, you take some of the old sprue off some of the runners, heat it up with a lighter, and then you stretch out a piece of plastic, and you can clip it off to whatever length you want and make a nice looking, realistic looking antenna. And in fact, it even tells you in the instruction booklet to do that, because it doesn't come with some. But one of the last things I was working on last night, or last week, I should say, was this little reel. I haven't attached that yet. That is supposed to go on somewhere like over here on the side. Oops, I just dropped it. I'm going to put my mags on because I can't see anything anymore, especially this small. So this is going to attach somewhere like on the side over here. Once I figure it out, I'll glue it kind of like right there. And it's just a little spool for something, something they have on the tank. Might be obviously a hose reel or something like that. I doubt it's for anything other than a hose reel. I've also got the two ammo boxes that have to mount to machine guns. I started working on these guys. These are the two dudes that are going to go in the tank. One of them stands up. He's in this well here. He's got his gun on his hands on the 50 cal. So I've got to figure out the position of the hands. That's one of the challenges of doing this is I got to put the gun in place, and then once I get that glued in, then I'll know where to put his arms. I got Lieutenant Dan here. No legs. He goes in this other well. Doesn't really stand up very well because it's, oh shit, I'm losing it side here in a minute. He doesn't stand up for a while, but there's another light machine gun here that he goes on, and I've actually marked on his back here. You can see those two little dots. I've also marked on his arms, so I know exactly where to place those. So they're in the right position, because basically he's just sitting there with his arms crossed, kind of leaning on the front of the turret. Not really, no hands on the gun or anything. The only one that's really got his arms on, it has to be placed on the weapon or on the 50 cal is the guy who's standing up here. So that was another challenge I got to figure out later. Like I said, I'm gonna have to glue, probably either use some blue tack or something, stick that gun in and get it in position so I know where I can figure out where to put their arms. It's one of the hardest things to do is to glue them in the right position so they don't look like they're just hovering over whatever it is they're working on. And one of the other things I got to deal with is I'm trying to figure out how to paint the tracks. Because this is a rubberized material, it's kind of like a polycap. A lot of the Gundam builders know exactly what I'm talking about. The polycaps typically do not take paint very well. I mean, it'll take paint, but as soon as you bend it or touch it, it just like flakes off. So I have had success with a product called, what is it called? It's like Bulldog. It's Bulldog adhesion promoter. Okay, and it's primarily used in the auto industry for applying it to rubber or plastic or rubberized type materials so that they'll take paint better, and it actually helps paint stick. And I tested it on a polycap. I actually did this a long time ago, and I don't know if you can go dive deep into my page, my Gundamonium Works Facebook page, but somewhere in there is I did some photo side-by-sides of a polycap that did not have any of it, and then one that did, and you could actually take it and squeeze it and bend it and move it around, and the paint stayed on there. It was amazing. The only drawback is the stuff stinks. It really stinks, and you have to, if you're going to spray it through your airbrush, which I did, you got to use it. You got to either have a nice ventilation system or do it outside, because it is some nasty stuff. But as far as like an adhesion promoter that works, I've not been disappointed at all. I haven't used a ton of it. I actually decanted some and I put it in a jar, and then I used some actual Mr. Color leveling thinner, and that seemed to work fine as far as thinning it out to go through an airbrush, because it was pretty thick when it came out of the can. But yeah, that's it. That's where we're at. I am, like you see, I still got the auxiliary battery supply here. That's got to be mounted to the back, actually to the back of this, the main hole. I've got some clear, excuse me, I got some clear glass pieces here that still have to be installed in the, up here in the driver's hatch. There are 3 windows that I have to install in that, but I have to paint that piece first before I can put the glass in. That's why those are there. And I'm kind of like, I'm not real happy with this stuff. I thought it would be easier to get these off. They kind of pre-cut them, but they left a little bit left so they stay on the sheet. But it's really, really hard to cut these out without distorting them or stressing them to the point where you see like it's almost like when you have a crappy pair of nippers and you cut a piece off the sprue and you can see that the plastic changes color because it's been stressed. That's what this stuff's doing. But these are the windows. I used 2 of them already. I've got 3 more to do on that driver's hatch, but I guess I'll do the best I can with it. It's not too bad. It's just you got to be real careful. If you bend it, it's going to leave a white line in it and crease it pretty bad. And I got some storage tubes. Those came with the kit. Spare wheel. That's going to be mounted up here on top of the turret. Another piece that goes alongside the actual hull when the side skirts go on, all the side armor that's after I put the wheels on it back on and put the tracks back on, then I'll be able to glue the wheels on, mask all that off, and paint them. I'll be able to prime them off the kit, but I'm going to have to probably paint the wheels and the tracks and everything first, mount that on the body, and then mask it off so I can paint the rest. There's really no way that I can see to do that easily. I'll paint all the wheels off the kit, put them on, put the tracks on, mask it off, glue the sides on, and then paint all that stuff, and then I can just remove the mask. Should, in theory, work just fine. But yeah, first wave of primers done. Now I can see some of the seams I got to fix. I had one in the front here, especially. This is very visible. This one around the bottom, I'm not too concerned about. I dressed it a little bit. It's not perfect, but there was a pretty bad seam all the way around here. But because the way this turret sits so low, such a low profile, you can't really see it. So I smoothed it out a little bit, but I'm not trying to make it perfect because I'm really not overly concerned about it. But what you can see is this in the front, these two sections that are beveled here, those you can really see. So I'm going to be doing some seam fixes tonight, just sanding, maybe use my chisels a little bit to file this stuff down, try to get ready, hit it with another layer of primer later, and then we'll see if we fixed it. If we did, then we're ready to start painting. Not sure if I'm going to pre-shade this at all. I'm waiting for some black primer to show up. I got some Mr. Color 1500 black, which will really help out, especially when doing aircraft. But I may or may not pre-shade this. I'm not sure it needs to be pre-shaded just because of it's a tank, and it's not going to be there's not going to be a lot of panel separation needed with pre-shading. So again, unless you're wondering what pre-shading is, it's basically either, if you're an aircraft builder, some people pre-shade all the lines. They'll just go over each individual panel line. That way, when they shoot it with paint, those areas will be a little bit darker and kind of change colors a little bit and enhance those panel separations and details. But with a tank like this, I don't think I really need to do that. So there might not be. It's just going to be mostly weathered. So the weathering process will make that, that kind of stuff stand out versus pre-shading. So I don't think I'm going to have to do that. But anyway, we'll see. Maybe not. Okay, so let's get started. I had to clean up my bench a little bit. This thing was a mess today when I got home. I just realized that all my stuff started to kind of work its way this way. All my sanding sticks, everything was kind of just making its way to the center because I was doing all this photo etch, and I just had a huge mess. So I kind of cleaned up a little bit just to make it a little easier to work. And yeah, so not too many people on tonight. Tyler, you're the lone survivor, it looks like. So yeah, I've got to adjust these so I can see a little bit. There we go. I'm trying my hardest not to mess with the photo etch. I'm really trying not to damage any of it. I've got a nasty seam here. This one's good. So I really just need to do this side. And it looks like the reason this one's good is because I sanded it a little deeper. You can kind of see this is different. It's a little bit larger. So if I have to add some some CA in there to fill it, I might, but it looks like I can probably just get away with sanding it down, which is what I'm going to do. Oop, I almost knocked that one off. That one's separate anyway. That was the window I was telling you about. I'm really trying not to damage any of this photo etch. I probably should have done it after I did all this, but it's like one of those things. So I guess the nice part about this is as I sand this down, it brings the plastic back out, and you kind of see the primer will sit in the groove where the seam is, so it'll kind of show me. It still kind of highlights it and makes it easier to see in case I haven't fully addressed it. But and of course, you can always use your fingernail. It's to me. Yep, it's to you. The only one. I got a couple of people that gave me a thumbs up, but nobody's showing up tonight. We'll see. Maybe they'll come in later. My buddy Big John, he's probably moving right about now. That's probably why he's not here. Can't tell if that is. Now, I ran this CA glue right here. I'm sorry for bumping the camera. Every time I bump the table, it shakes my camera. But I ran that along a lot of these seams and then sanded it down. So, because it dries clear, sometimes it's hard to see if you actually filled the gap or not. So it's necessary to hit it again with another wave of primer to make sure. But I can see a line here, but if I'm running my finger over it, I'm not grabbing anything on my fingernail. Oh, hey, what's up, George? Ken's in the house too. How's it going, guys? I'm glad you guys made it. So I guess I go back and show you what's going on here, since Tyler was the one holding the fort down till you guys got here. So I got about 50 or so pieces of photo etch on just the turret alone. I put the first layer of primer down. I'm just going through and addressing some seams on the front here. The other one is going to be on the back of the body section. I've got a couple of seams I've got to address there. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, we can show you this real quick. All the photo etch. There's the thermal identification. I guess that's what it's called, right? Thermal panels. A lot of little. Oh, I didn't count these other little brackets that I saw in here. There's so much on here. There's got to be at least 50, 60 pieces of photo etch on just this piece alone. So I got those, all the little handles, smoke dispenser, the storage containers for the smoke. Those have lids and hinges and all the little pieces. I mean, all these were little tiny pieces of photo etch. Even the cables have 5 hold down hooks that hold the tow cables down, and then 2 end cap pieces that hold those on the ends each side. So that's 14 pieces of photo etch alone right there. And you can see those little tiny hooks, just those little tiny tabs. Each one of those is a piece. Thanks, George. Yeah, it's starting to look good now that I finally hit it with some primer and kind of get an idea of what this whole thing's going to look like. I think I'm going to go with the standard tan color Abrams, the American version, not the UK camouflage, or I think that's UK. Anyway, mainly the one we see in the US is the brown tan version. I just got to decide on a color. I've got a couple of colors I can choose from. I've got let's see, there's a couple of tans, but there might be too light, but let me show you what I'm thinking. So I got this, and this. All right. So progression here. So these look kind of white on the screen, but this is called sail color, which is a pretty light tan. Then there's tan, and then there's sandy brown. So each one of those would be a good color to choose from. This may be too dark, so I may have to go with this guy. I'm gonna have to look at some more stock photos and some reference photographs and see between these two. I think this is just too light. That's the sail color, so we're gonna put you back. 44, Mr. Color 44 is tan, and then 19 is sandy brown. Yeah, maybe even a mixture of these two. I might actually combine the two and make a custom color out of it. We'll see. So what I was just talking about, this seam had a little bit of line here from the top panel to the bottom panel. I can still see the line there, but it might be just the CA glue because I'm running my fingernail over it and I can't feel it. So I'm pretty sure if I hit that again with primer, it's going to look nice. This has got a little bit of a scratch from my file. And that's the only reason I'm hitting this other side. It's because I'm just trying to take those scratches out. Couldn't see them before until I hit it with primer. I think we're good. I'll leave it at that. So, George, I guess I don't know if you've seen the IPMS U.S. chairman or whatever kind of put his foot in his mouth. I'm not going to get into it too much, but yeah, he kind of did. Kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. They're scrambling around to try to fix that. Does Tamiya specify color match? No, Tamiya uses Tamiya paint. Of course, Tamiya is going to promote their own products. So let's see what they're saying goes in. Unfortunately, they don't have a color match. They don't do like two different charts that'll show you, okay, you can use Tamiya color this or use Mr. Color that. They only promote their own stuff. So we got clear blue, silver, gunmetal, red, royal blue, desert yellow. Looks like they're probably going to use, there's a dark yellow and a desert yellow and a red brown. I'm not sure what the red brown is for, but I think it doesn't show what to paint. It only shows like the odd colors. Like I'm looking at the wheels here and it shows flat black. Okay, that's the rubber portion, but it doesn't give you what the base color would be. I notice to me it does that a lot. It just assumes that you're going to know what it is you're doing. Yes, read the journal article he wrote and today's email from the board. Yeah, the email from the board was like damage control, I think, for sure. Yeah, it was. I was like, really? Freeloaders, huh? That's a great way to attract new members. So even I'm looking here, and even on the, I might have to go to the very back and see if it does say exactly what color is used, because it only shows, here we go. So first armor division, and the third armor division is the camouflage. So I'm going first armor division. It just shows decals. It doesn't show the paint colors. It's strange. It gives you a paint color breakdown on the first page, but really, so that's new to me, George. If you're saying there's an app you use to cross match various paint lines, that would be good to know. I don't know. Is it really just something you can get in the App Store on your phone, or? Yeah, freeloaders. That was a very, very horrible choice of words for sure. You know, people, for those that don't know, in the room, I mean, George is a member of IPMS chapter Patriot Division back in Massachusetts, so he knows what's going on. But some of these other guys may not know. IPMS stands for International Plastic Model Society. They have chapters all over the world. We have one here in in the Washington State. That's the one that was the event I went to back in April, was the Seattle IPMS. So a lot of people, a lot of members, a lot of people involved. And I guess the chairman of the U.S. IPMS United, or U.S., came out and said something about people that go to these events and don't belong to a chapter, just basically put their kits down on the table and they're more than happy to walk away with a trophy, are freeloaders. And so it was like, well, what? Everybody on this, in this community, and they even named the Gundam community in general as part of that. And so it's nice to know that they're recognizing the Gundam community, but to say that everybody that doesn't belong or doesn't pay any dues is a freeloader, yeah, that was a pretty bad choice of words. So we'll see how he comes out of this, or how they come out of this. But F Armor Sand, what the hell are you telling me, Tyler? George is going to try to find the app, so we're going to see if we can figure that out. That'd be something cool. F Armor Sand, yeah. What brand though, Tyler? If you're looking up color codes, but I paint primarily, in fact, exclusively now with Mr. Color. So Tamiya, I have actually, a friend of mine has all my Tamiya paint. I hope he might give it back to me before he moves, if he hasn't moved already. But no problem, George. Take your time. Yeah, APMS has been working hard at becoming more inclusive. Yeah, President took a step back. Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, you can do 10 great things, and you screw up one time, and everybody that's all they see. It's unfortunate, because I guess in anything in the world, no matter what you're doing, you can do 100 nice things for people, and as soon as you screw up one time, all of a sudden it's like, oh shit. Well, we always knew, whatever it is. It's just this, it's especially this community. It's such a tight knit. Everybody knows everybody. There's so many builders and a lot of new people. And can you imagine some of the new people showing up to an event feeling like they're not pulling their weight because they don't belong to a chapter? I mean, that's really not. I don't belong to any chapter. I've considered joining, and I've actually volunteered to judge at IPMS events before, and I wasn't a member. But that was only because they were unfamiliar with Gundam. They wanted help with people in the sci-fi community that knew what to look for when building those kind of kits and stuff. So yeah, last year, the last year we had before COVID, I volunteered to help judge the Gundam category, so I could actually give the judges that were not normally, that were actually IPMS judges, I could give them some insight on what to look for to make it as fair and and thorough as, I guess, as possible. So to be at this point where we're just starting to get accepted more and more into these events, these IPMS events, and then to have a chairman say something like that just kind of blew everybody a step back, for sure, like George said. So 318, Mr. Color looks right. 318, well, I know I probably got it. Let's see where 318 is. I may have to. 318. Oh, 318. That is 318 is a radome color. It's kind of light, but I see where you're going, because I know I've seen some that are pretty light. I've got a couple of jars of that. This is the old school type lids that have these little stupid little, I hate these things. That just shows you how long I've had this paint, because they don't make them this way anymore. But yeah, good on you, Tyler, for looking that up. 318. I have that. That seems to be a pretty light color, but I guess it depends on where you look, because I've seen some like brand new. When I visited my son he was stationed in Fort Riley, Kansas for a while, and so we went out there and visited him, and he took me to the base, and they had some Abrams tanks just sitting there. Somewhere I've got a photo, somewhere on a phone, but they were pretty light color. I think it was because also they were very clean and probably new or newer, so there wasn't a lot of the paint didn't have a chance to get dirty, you know what I mean? Or maybe that's just the color they paint them. There's different types, but so I see that. Yeah, this may be an option. You know, what I'll do is maybe do a test on some of the runners or something and see, because I think this sandy brown is just going to be too dark. Because I think I can weather it and make it darker looking with weathering versus putting a base color down that's a bit darker. I was agreeing with you. Said earlier, I'm mixing a little darker tan with the medium. I'm gonna put this up here. Darker tan with a medium tan and custom, 318 semi-gloss. Well, I'm going to flat coat everything anyway. I don't care if it's gloss or semi-gloss. It doesn't matter to me. Everything will be sealed with, well, first they'll be gloss coated because then that allows me to put all the decals down, and then flat coated over that and weathered on top of that. So there's all these layers that are going to go on involved with that. And slightly darker, no clue. Yeah, I'm just going to have to play around with it. I'm pretty sure there's we always joke about people called rivet counters, that go out and they count rivets on a tank or something like that and go, that's wrong, that's not right. They didn't have this bolt here or that or whatever it is. I'm using that as an example because that's what it's like sometimes. So if the color is not perfect, I don't think I'm going to have anybody really griping about it too much. I mean, obviously, if I showed up with a purple Abrams tank, they're going to have a problem with it. But if I throw up a tan colored tank and put some dirt on it, because I've got plenty of pigments and stuff that I can make this thing look dusty and dirty, and that's what I plan to do. I'm thinking about, in fact, while we're on the subject about weathering, I'm thinking about putting this on a plaque, something small that kind of looks like, because this is maybe an Iraqi version or something like that. I'm thinking about having an asphalt road on part of it, but maybe some sand and like transitioning to that and having the tank crossing over that. So there'll be some powder kind of coming off of the dirt onto the pavement from the tank. I don't know if you can visualize that. That's what I'm thinking. Something simple, not too complicated, but kind of give the idea of a tank crossing a road or not going down the road, straight down the road, but kind of crossing between, transitioning from dirt, sand to asphalt, and having some of that, material transferring to the road surface. So Barney ain't fucking around anymore. Clean up. What the hell are you talking about? You're gonna have to explain that one, Tyler. I don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, let me put this back on the skewer here. I'm glad I didn't break the photo edge off. It's got a couple of pieces on it. This is a little hatch that's open. The doors are open on it. You see there. But there's also a lens inside that's blue. I've got it covered up with some paper and tape right now so I can paint it, and then I'll remove that and install it on the kit later. So I think I've pretty much done what I can do with these two seams. There was quite a bit of glue in there. I don't know if you can see that. There's like a dark line right here. You can see that dark line. That looks like a seam, but it's actually not, because that's filled with that gap filling CA glue. So it looks like there's a line there, but once I hit it with primer again, it's going to go right away. It's going to disappear. This is going to be the hardest part, is getting rid of this seam like back here and back here. There's where the back section glued on. I'm trying to get it to focus. It's pretty bright with my lighting. There's basically a line from here to here. This one's not so noticeable because there's a bracket that kind of goes around this. But from here to here, there's a nice nasty seam, and also down the sides, here and here, and maybe even underneath. But this will be covered up by the tracks and stuff. I'm not too worried about that. but I do have to hit this one on the side and on the top. So I think what I'm going to have to do is I have to take some of my chisels here, maybe my 2.5, and just start a. Actually, you know what? I think maybe the bigger one will be easier to control. I'm going to try a 3. I've got a 2.5, but I like the 3. It's wide. It's the only thing I use it for. Not for chiseling lines, but mostly for scraping. I'm going to go from here to here, and I'm just going to try to take down some of that material. That I tried to glue this together, at the same height to make it as minimal as possible, but there's still a little bit of a raised surface there, so I'm going to take down some of this. And I'm just going to go across the top real carefully and just take down that material. I don't know what you're trying to. What are you, Barney, showing up? That's where the Barney reference came in. Okay, I forgot I mentioned purple. Yeah, no, that's not going to work out too well. Although there was some kind of anime series, and I can't remember what it was, but it was like Tank Girls or something. And some IPMS chapters, and maybe all of them, they have a collections category now. So you can bring in 5 kits that are the same, they're related in some way, and put them into a collections category. And a friend of mine in California made a bunch of Tank Girls, and submitted those, and he did good. But the only thing, I actually bought 5 Valkyrie kits, Macross kits, because I had intended to do the collections category as a 5 non-combat Valkyries, basically like the VE1, the VT, all the non-combat Valkyries. But unfortunately, the idea of that was a little more ambitious than my patience of doing 5 separate Valkyrie kits, so I ended up not doing it. I actually sold a couple of the Valkyrie kits that I was going to use for that, just because it was just not going to happen. So I'm trying to just take this down. I'm going to have to sand across this whole area so those 2 surfaces are the same height, and hopefully all my glue in there too. Will seal that gap so there won't be much left. Or if any, won't be any seam left that I have to address. If you glue any seam properly, you should be able to put the 2 pieces almost entirely together, put some thin cement in there, then squeeze them. And what happens is there's a bead of melted plastic, because it's a plastic welder. The glue it welds it, so it melts it. And when you squeeze and you get that bead, that's what you want. It's not about making a perfect seam the first time. But when you get that little bit of a bead sticking in, once it dries, you can sand that off, and that will completely fill that seam. You'll never have to worry about addressing it later. But in some cases like this, you can try your hardest to get these 2 surfaces perfect, and you still got a seam there. As soon as you hit it with primary, that's when you see it. Girls on Panzer anime. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It was a guy in California, a friend of mine, who did like 5 little Panzer tanks or something. It was for that. It was in that collections category for the anime, and they were painted in all sorts of wild colors. I mean, there wasn't one tank that wasn't bright, pink or something, or all these. But that was, of course, because of the anime. There was no one, and he actually won. I don't know if he got if he placed or if he won that category, the collections category, but he did very well that year. Yeah, it was cool. It was neat to see somebody actually do that because, like I said, I had good intentions. I bought a bunch of Valkyrie kits and I was gonna make an entry, but I don't know if they have that entry up here or that category. This was again in California, so the chapter up here may not have that actual category. I don't know if they have collect. That's one thing. Maybe George, you can answer me. Does all the IPMS chapters, do they follow each other and have the same categories, or do they kind of independently create what they, the categories they want? Do they try to stick as closely as possible with other chapters, or is it just a free for all? Because I don't remember if the IPMS Seattle up here has a collections category. They might. I think I just missed it if I didn't. Probably wasn't paying attention. I mean, even though this guy kind of put his foot in his mouth, it's still not going to sway me from joining. I was considered joining the chapter up here. But like I was saying earlier, I volunteered to judge, and I wasn't even a member, chapter member. I was just doing it because, I wanted to help out and the experience of it all. But this past year, I just wanted to be a customer this time because I was, it'd been a few years since COVID and everything hit. We weren't able to do this event, so I didn't want to have to see above for color app. See above. Did I miss something? Color app. Oh, did you send it to me, or is it somewhere here? It's open. Each chapter chooses categories. Oh, okay. So yeah, so there again, when I bought those Valkyries, and I had intended on doing the collections category eventually, and then I moved up here. So it's a good possibility that more than likely that I wasn't going to be able to build all those for that category anymore up here. So that's when I decided to just sell a couple of them off. But I kept all the rare ones, of course. See above. I don't see the color app. I don't know if you're. See above. Is it in the chat, or is it somewhere else that I'm missing, George? Maybe you can just PM me or something with it, because I don't see it right now. But yeah, that's cool. I will definitely check that out, because especially with building, a Tamiya kit, it's really, and that's what I like about Hasegawa, is because Hasegawa uses Mr. Color charts. So it's really easy to paint a kit, especially a Valkyrie, because their colors match perfectly with everything that they do. But Tamiya, of course, is going to they're going to promote their own product. Yep. I might have to add a little bit of CA glue on the side here to fill that in. Because they've got these side pieces that go on, but they don't cover this up completely. So they go right about here. You see, I've still got about almost 3/8 of an inch of seam right here next to that tail light. Yeah. I don't see it. You posted it in the chat? Because I can see this to me. Journal article. Yeah. No, I don't see it in the chat, George. And I'm not missing it here. I'm looking, but I just don't see it. Huh. If you send it to me, if you PM me or whatever, I'll put it in there too and see if it goes up, because I don't see a link or anything. Post it now. Huh. Yeah, no, I don't see it. Does anybody else see it? Because I don't. Maybe it's just me. So I'm doing my damnedest not to knock off any of my photo etch. So far, so good. But I wouldn't put it past me to knock one off tonight. I'm saying that now because if it happens, that way I can say, yeah, I told you it was going to happen. That one's pretty good. This piece is going to go on the back anyway. This goes on here like so. Yeah, like that. Well, it's not really covering it up, but that's the auxiliary power supply. YouTube seems to be removing it. Really? I wonder why. Well, I don't know. I don't know why. I'm just using this chisel, lightly scraping that variance there, and then using my little thin little sanding sticks. Don't use these all the time, but it's good for tight stuff. Just kind of getting in there. And hopefully when I hit it with primer again, there won't be any real variance there. I mean, even like the primer layer, because even that's going to have a little bit of thickness to it. All right, let's see about the side here. Yeah, it's pretty ugly. Oh well, just send it to me, George. Maybe I can put it up there. Send it to me like a PM, and I'll just look at my phone or something and see if I can manage to get it to work. It's looking pretty good. What I like about the Mr. Color Primer, the 1000, is it's obviously not as thick as the 500. 500s, you can't even really airbrush with that. But the 1000 will also fill, I mean, believe me, we're talking minor gaps, but it will fill some, slight little variances. You can go a little heavy and it will fill it. I think I'm pretty much got that one smoothed down. I just got one more side here to do. Probably removed it because it looked like a spam ad. Let me see if I got it on my phone here. Did you send it through Insta or there it is. Okay, I got it. Oh, did you see that? By the way, George, did you see that Valkyrie thing I told you about? I actually bought one. It's going to come here pretty soon. Hobby color converter. Okay, so let me look it up. Good God. Let's see. Hobby color converter. Look at that. What do you know? Find a color equivalence between different modeling paints, brands, and much more. So it's called Hobby Color Converter. Which Valkyrie? I sent you a message on Instagram. If you look in your messages, you should see it there. You love Surfacer 500? Yeah, I've used it a couple times. the first time I actually used it was the F14 build, because I needed to create that stippling or that anti-slip tape next to the cockpit, and I was able to apply that with a brush and stipple it so it looked like grip tape. It worked well, and then I just sanded it. Once it dried, it was kind of like really rough, and then I sanded it so it kind of gave it that look of grip tape. All right, well, let's see. We're going to install this now. We're going to do an experiment here. Install this and see. But anyway, it's a VF1 Valkyrie. It's a 1/72 scale from Plomax. There's a company in California that has them for like $30, I think it was. They'll ship for as little as $7. Yeah, I know you're not. I didn't expect you to see it right away, but I figured since you were in messages right now, you might have seen it. But anyway, I paid $10 for UPS to have a little bit quicker. But Dan Salas in California, he bought one, and it's engineered the same way as the 120 scale was. In other words, there's very few seams. In fact, it looks like it's the way they've designed it. It's supposed to be pretty easy to put together. One of the quickest, easiest Valkyrie builds out there. The only thing, there were some seams maybe in the leg sections, the main edges, that didn't follow actual natural panel lines. So maybe a little bit of work there, but everything else, the way the parts go together, they're all the seams are done on like angles, like all the seams are on like the corners of an arm or something like that. So when they come together, there's really no seam to fix because it's on a corner, an angle or something like that. So, all right, let's open this up. Okay, this better not blow up my phone, George. Utility selection. Let's see here. Oh gosh. Hobby color converter. Man, they got everything. Army painter, all clad, ammo, MIG. Damn. So we got to go to Gunze, Mr. Hobby. Where's Tamiya? Well, it's all in. There we go. Tamiya. So how do you use this, I wonder? XF acrylics. So let's see. If we go to, they didn't even buff. They've got a buff color. Maybe that's the one they're using. Buff is a tannish color, right? XF57. Let's go down that. XF buff flat. Long press any paint. Okay. So XF57, and then it says, well, that doesn't help. Indirect equivalences. I don't even know how to use this. I'm going to have to sit down and figure out how to use this. Oh boy. Yeah, I don't have time to play around this night, but it looks interesting. I'll figure it out. Figure out how to use it. I don't want to waste everybody's time trying to figure out. Hopefully it builds better than the Plomax. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and even I said something about it to Dan because I said, boy, I wonder how seamerific it's going to be. And then he chimed back in with, hey, this looks, the way they engineered it, he was showing me some screenshots, and the way the nose cone goes together, it's like a scaled down version of the 120. I think I can actually bring it up. I might be able to show you guys an image here. It's not too far back in my... Let's see. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll just look him up and go straight to his post here. There it is. Okay. So, so the cool part is it comes with water slides. That was important too because it took a little bit to figure out, but it's not too bad. Yeah, okay. I'll figure it out. I just didn't want to waste everybody's time trying to tool through it. So, getting back to the Valkyrie. So it does come with water slides, not just stickers, which is what I was concerned about too with Plowmax, because typically Max Factory likes to give you a nice kit with stickers, and it just pissed me off until they used to sell that stuff third party afterward, or you had to buy them separate. So here's a screenshot of the way the cockpit goes together. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that clearly. I'm trying to not get too much glare, but the canopy glass is in two separate pieces. So it looks like the shorter half in the back has the support bar going over the top. So all you have to do is mask that off and paint it. That's pretty simple. Then the bottom window frame is a separate piece as well. So you don't have to mask the glass at all, really, except for that back half. And then the front, let's see, can you see that? Let's see it. The front, I'm trying to get it. The front canopy, or the front the cockpit fuselage there, is separated by a nose cone, and then the black portion is also a separate piece. So it looks like they just scaled down the 120. They didn't re-engineer it. They may have just scaled it down completely. So I bet you it goes together exactly the same. It's just going to be smaller. The only thing that concerns me maybe is those panel lines might be a little thick. They're not quite as sharp, and there we go. Now it's focused. So you can kind of see how that goes together. The pilot comes, his arms come in separate pieces there. You can see that. But yeah, it looks pretty simple. Let me go to the next. The tail section. So the tail section is built into a box. So each one of those seams is on a corner edge of that box. Even the arms that go, folded up underneath between the legs there, those are also seamed on the edges too. So there's really not any seams right down the middle that have to be addressed, except maybe on the legs, the engine sections themselves. I know, water slides, right? Exactly. That's what I said. The only thing that does have a big seam is the gun pod. Of course, it's done just like Hasegawa. There's one right down the middle. So, but this is I don't know if you can see that. This is the leg section there. And so it kind of goes together in a way that tries to minimize those seams that have to be, really, obviously seams that are on an edge are a lot easier to clean up than something right down the middle, like a Hasegawa kit, because their leg sections are seamed right down the center. So that makes it much harder. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be pretty easy to go together. And it looks like they've tooled it to eventually come out with a Super Strike version as well, because they have pieces that can be removed from the main body where it will accept those super packs, like right here. And that's exactly the way the 120 was as well. It had those big chunks out of the back section there behind the cockpit, which if you're doing the jet, you're just going to install another piece that's kind of in there. It just on the runners, and it will fill in those holes there. So anyway, looks like it might be worth it. I bought one that's coming, and they're in California. I don't know how long it would take to get to you, George, but yeah, that's a pretty nasty seam right there. But yeah, it's on its way. I'll let you know. Maybe I can do a follow-up post on that when I get it. They've already shipped it, so I just have to wait a few days. I think it's coming next. Well, actually, you know what? It might be this week. It might be Thursday. I have to check I've got like 4 tracking numbers going right now for various things. So I can't remember which one was going to be this week or next week. It might be like Tuesday, Wednesday next week, but we'll see. Will you work on the Valkyrie after the tank? Good question. It's a very, very valid question, George. I don't know. I don't know. This tank has got me, I kind of like doing this, but at the same time, I'm missing the sci-fi stuff. I really, really enjoy, especially in Macross stuff. And I don't know what it is, but a lot of times I go through my Gundam stuff and I'm just like, just don't feel it. Gundam is not really doing it for me right now. Occasionally, the kid will come up or I just get in the mood for something different, and then I'll build it. But I don't know. Maybe the Dom. I've got the new Dom that came out. Maybe I'll build that or something. I don't know. It's all master grade stuff. I don't have a lot of high grade 144 stuff. I got a few, but not a bunch. It's getting down there. I might have to add a little bit of glue, a little bit of CA glue. Yeah, it's still there. I can feel it with my fingernail. A little bit more to take down. Not much. Oh, wow. That's got a pretty nasty edge on it. I do not know if I'll work on it. I think I'll have to open it up and take a look and see. I really kind of got spoiled by the 148 scale stuff because it's just a nicer scale to work with. I mean, Plomex, at least the 172 they're producing has a pilot, whereas Hasegawa, even they don't have pilots in the 172 stuff. It's kind of disappointing. You have to buy the weapon set, the 172 weapon set, in order to get like 2 pilots. But the 148 comes with a pilot. The weapon sets, of course, you have to buy separately too, but at least the kit itself comes with a pilot in 148 scale. So that does make it nicer. So like I said, I kind of got spoiled by that, but we'll see. When I open the box up and we'll take a look at the details and see how nice they are. If I get it by next week, maybe I'll do a review, online here while we're doing the show, and just break it out and say, all right, let's look at it, see what it looks like. Maybe open the bags up, look at the runners. You know what? I'm not going to need any glue. I think I finally busted that down enough. I had to kind of dig into this tail out a little bit, but I can reshape that, not a problem. Just going to kind of round those edges off. Should be able to hit that with some primer and should look nice. Yeah, I don't see it at all now. The glue did its job. I filled it perfectly. So hopefully the top is good as the sides are. A little bit more here. I think I need to take off. So right now I still don't see. Shit, I gotta be careful of these fenders. I don't see, I don't feel a seam, but I don't see, I'm sanding off the primer. It should be. I should see a little bit of that working its way into that other panel if I've got it, if I'm sanding everything off. There it goes. Now I can see it. Okay, so here, yeah, the seam right here, that's nice and clean now. This side kind of the same way. Actually, right here, you can see if I can angle it. There you go. You can see not as bad. Only thing that's got me worried maybe a little bit on top because there's a lot of little extra details there that I can't sand around. So that might be a little bit, but we'll see once I put primer down on it again. We used to call this the lather, rinse, repeat step because you're always, you sand it down a little bit, make your fixes, and then hit it with primer. Then you sand it down, you make some more fixes, and then you hit it with primer again. So that's the shampoo analogy. The shampoo, lather, rinse, repeat. That looks good. All right. Just taking those scratches out. Nice and smooth. Gosh, I wish I could just glue those side skirts on right now, but the only problem is I wouldn't be able to get the tracks on afterwards. So that's another thing I was talking about too before you chimed in or showed up tonight, George, was I got to figure out how to paint these. It looks like, even the box art, it looks like the colors are very, very, the pads are going to be black. I've already, that's obvious. Those are rubber. But the actual tracks themselves are, I guess, they're all metal, I guess. But just trying to get paint to stick to these is the challenge. I have some adhesion promoter I may use. I just don't know if it's going to be all a hand painting thing or if I'm actually going to try to shoot these with an airbrush. Because there's a lot in here that's all, the inside's also got to be done. All this stuff's going to be visible, so I've got to somehow, I don't know if I can use just weathering materials to dirty these up enough to look like they're painted or not. They're not the best tracks in the world. I don't want to buy third-party tracks to replace them, but I don't know. I guess we can sort that out later. They do snap together really nicely. You can't really see. That's not going to be seen anyway. I'll put that seam on the top under the side skirt, but yeah, if anybody's got any cool ideas on how to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about, let me see if I've got it here. I think I've got it in my room. Let me grab it real quick. Where is it? At least I thought it was here. Where is my bulldog? I don't see you. No, not there. Oh, no, not there. Where the hell is it? Well, I thought I had it in my room here. I doubt it's in the garage. I don't know where it's at. I had a candidate. Did I leave it here? No. Hang in there, guys. I'm looking for that adhesion promoter, but I don't see it. I thought I had it right here. No. Well, I'm going to have to find that another day, I guess. I thought I had it here somewhere in my room. It's not hard to spot. It's like a purple can, a big bulldog on the side of it. Anyway. Another thing I'm going to be doing in the near future, and that's going to be, I'm going to be down for a bit. That's what I'm trying to see. Maybe I'll finish the tank first. I don't know. My aunt's coming up to visit in July. So I'm not going to start a project in this room like when she's here because I've got to move everything out of this room. I'm going to be putting wood flooring in. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to run into a snag or trying to rush to finish it up before she gets here. So I'll probably end up doing the flooring after she visits, and that's at the end of July. So I may end up doing a few shows. It's kind of similar to Tim, Child of Mecca Tim, this new studio kind of thing that he's been doing lately. And that's because he's been building his new studio and putting flooring in and remodeling his house or remodeling his studio. So I'm kind of doing the same. I'm going to put in some nice shelving, but I'm going to be pulling the carpet up all the way through into the closet. So my floor is going to be a nice, like a distressed kind of gray, almost like what do you call it? Like that driftwood kind of grayish color. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing there. But anyhow, let's see, what else do I got to do today? Looks like I've fixed all the seams on this that need to be addressed. At least until I put primer on them and see if I actually fixed them. You know how that is, right? I don't know if any of you guys are painting what you're building. You know what I'm talking about. All right, so we got that. This one in front. Let me see. Oh, you know what? I got a seam in the front here I got to fix. I thought this front seam was actually fixed, but I saw a line there and I ran my finger across it, and what do you know? And I think that's probably because I got impatient and I started trying to sand it before it was fully dry. So be patient, people. When you got a seam, let the glue dry before you try sanding it. This is an easy fix, but the problem is, yeah, now it's perfect, but the glue hadn't quite set, so as I was running my file over it, all it did was kind of pull those two pieces apart a little bit, and then it leaves a line there in a little bead. So just some light sanding here is going to fix that, but like I said, I got impatient. I was trying to build. I wanted to glue the whole sections together. So yeah, that's going to be good. Oh, one other thing I do have to do. The headlights here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but there is a little module behind the actual headlight, this little thing here. Well, those are supposed to be connected. And there's a gap because the way they designed this kit, I don't know why you couldn't put these pieces any further back. I would have attached them, but anyway, so I'm going to take some plastic strip or something like that and cut off some pieces, and I'm going to install a couple of pieces in here until I get those to look like a solid piece, because this is supposed to be kind of like where the power comes into the, it's all wired internally according to my friend, but this is supposed to be attached. It's not supposed to be a gap in between. Like I'm actually putting my tweezers in between. This one's huge. This side's a little tighter, but yeah, I've got to fix that too. And then another question came up was whether or not I was going to apply any kind of anti-skid, anti-slip coating on the top of the tank. Apparently all these panels are covered in some kind of anti-slip coating. Well, guess what? It's not going to happen. I've already put too much photo etch on here to even try to address something else like that. I mean, they gave me, a friend of mine showed me a reference photo, like a top-down view of where it all goes, and there's very, very little that's not covered in this stuff. But that's something you would probably have to do before you even get this deep into all the photo etch and stuff. Like it's even on the turret section. It's everywhere. I mean, there's even some on the front, like panels here, here. The only thing, I think these boxes were the only thing not covered in it, and then there's also around the back. Yeah, I'm not going to try to do that. In fact, it's going to be, I don't know if it would even be that noticeable anyway to do it. So I've decided, you know what? Yeah, I'm not going to do that. It's just not going to happen. So, yeah. But I don't think there's much else, except maybe I can move these tracks out of the way. I might try to find some strip that'll fit in that. Let's see here. Pull out my bags of plastic strip here. This might work. Maybe not. I don't think it's wide enough. I got some really thin strips of stuff here. That's getting too big. So let's see here. I might have to double up on this, but this might actually be... No, it's a little too wide. All right. So I think one of these that I had looked at earlier might actually be the one I need. I don't know. Maybe this one. All right. I'm going to grab a piece of this. I should have a short piece in here already or something. Actually, we may have to do it this way. That might work. Still a little too narrow. I'm just trying to find a piece of strip that'll fit right in there, and I can just cut it to size and glue it in place. Should be enough to cover up that gap. Oh, wait, was it this one? Maybe it was this one I was looking at. Yeah, I think it was. Come on now. There it is. This one's already been cut, so. See, this is a square, and it's too thick. Scratch that. So I got one other option, and I think it's further down on the stack here. That one too, maybe. Let's see here. Let me just get one of these out. There we go. So yeah, if I double up, this is going to work. I'll have to double it up, but I'll just cut a couple of strips of this off, glue them together, and then I can just fit them in there. So all I'm going to do is just clip off a little short piece of this. And then I can eventually, I'm not going to need all of this, but I want to be able to stack a few strips of that to get to the right thickness, because one of them's a little bit bigger of a gap. So that way I can customize it. It's good to have a good stock of this evergreen stuff on hand, because you never know, especially when you want to add, details to the model. Or there's actually a gap I've already filled in too. There was one of the pieces on the turret on this didn't quite fit together tightly. There was a little bit of a gap there, and you wouldn't even notice it now because I put a thin strip right in here, and I used enough glue to soften it up, and it just kind of filled in there and used it almost like a gap filler. So yeah, it's all that seam is gone. Anyway, I will finish this up for next week. I'll get started on that later on, and we'll see. I'll fix those headlights, and then maybe hit this with some primer again this week. Second wave of primer done, and start going from there. George, I don't know if you saw this. I'll pull this out again real quick. This is just the turret section here that will go on just kind of like that. There's some photo etch on there as well. So yeah, it's looking good. It's looking real nice. This was a piece of photo etch that I had to bend into a tube. I mean, you talk about a challenge, man. I kept the original part because I wasn't sure this was going to come out right. I'm not even sure what that thing is, but it's just a tube that has some like little fingers. I had to bend those down inside, but I put the original piece inside of it. So once I got that bent in the right I had to wrap it around a drill bit. That was the best way to do it. Wrap it around a drill bit until you get the seams to come together, and then I was able to just put some glue inside, some super glue, and fix it that way. Anyway, with that, my friends, I am going to call this one a show. Thanks everyone that joined in. Thanks those that stopped by, even for a brief moment. No big deals there. Appreciate everybody's support, and can't wait to see it all together. Yeah, me neither. You know what? As this process comes along, Ken, it's like, for me anyway, it's like I'm working. As I start to finally make some serious progress, like everything starts to come together and it's starting to get close to the end. That's when I start getting excited, because then, like, decals, when I get to the decal step, or once all the paint's down and start doing weathering, then it starts really, the momentum starts going. You know what I mean? All right, Tyler, see you tomorrow, my friend. Ken, I'll see you tomorrow too if you're at work as well. George, thanks again as always for stopping in. Fuck, did I just miss it? Yeah, Richard, you joined in 2 minutes to 3 minutes before I was supposed to wrap things up here, so no big deals. No, I don't have one for my pretty face. All you get to see is my fat sausage fingers. That's what you get on this show. One of these days, I'll set up a professional setup where I have two cameras, with one looking down at the workbench and one on my face. I think I have to get a different streaming service though to do that properly. I don't know, but we'll see. Anyway, see all you guys tomorrow. Thanks everyone for stopping in. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell them to get on there, and appreciate all your support. So we'll talk to you soon. We'll see you next week on the flip. Have a good night, everybody.